Hey everybody, welcome to Bura. In this episode, I'm going to be talking about remote work and all of the companies that are possibly ending it. All right, welcome back. So let's take a look here at some of the things that have come out in the last little while here. So California considers a shortened 32-hour work week. I'm going to dive into that in a second here. But Dell Netherlands is piloting or trials a 4-day work week. And Apple is requiring in-person work starting today with a hybrid plan. And I'm going to be talking a little bit about GitLab's remote manifesto, okay? So first of all, let's take a look at California's shortened 32-hour work week. Now, personally, I don't think this is necessarily a good idea. And I'm going to tell you why, okay? So in 2008, I had multiple jobs and because I had to. And on top of that, I did start a business. But one of the things is that it was kind of hard to get hours in some places. And let's say I worked at a company, in a service company, and I could only work 32 hours there. Well, okay, is there no reason I would if I want to work more? Like, what if I need to make more? When it comes to this here, I think that people are going to have to hop between jobs. And a lot of people do that, right? A lot of people do that today, specifically in the service sector, where they have to go from job to job. And they might have 3 jobs that might pay them a livable income. So I think this is going to completely backfire with some unintended consequences here. But at the same time, though, 32 hours is way too short, right? I think Sweden tried this years ago with a 30-hour work week, and that's just too short. 35 hours is really good. Now, the other thing you can do is if you total the hours up in a month here, perhaps you could do like a 9 to 5 all day, but then on Friday you leave early. And I think that's a much better idea here. And the other thing is that like the whole hours of work when it comes to things that are outside the service industry is kind of silly, right? Now, of course, the way I do things is that like I'm always working, right? And like you don't have to tell me to go twice to go to work. I'm usually up between 5 and 6. Sometimes I wake up before 5. And then I just go to the office until about 4. And then at 4, I'm pretty much done. And then I go hang with my kids or go play sports or something in my free time. Like that's kind of my work day. That's a lot of hours. But then again, I run a business, right? I have to be there. If something goes wrong, I have to be there. It's very hard for me to take time off here. But, at the same time, though, there's always an issue between like, let's say if you work at a grocery store or like a coffee shop, and then let's say you're a coder here. So GitLab has a really interesting solution to this here, okay? And so I'm gonna be going over this whole page because it's huge in a different video here. But I just want to kind of go over what GitLab is. And if you don't know what GitLab is, it's kind of like, cloud hosting for code. It's really good. I use it. A lot of people use it here. I'm just going to go over these 9 steps. And the way that they do things here is a lot more in tune with the way work is, especially in the areas that are a lot more product driven versus service driven. So the thing is that all of these kind of hourly things work well for service industry, but then again, you're going to have people hopping from job to job. So is that really good? People are going to waste time in the service area, right? And I don't think that's necessarily a good thing. And then I'm going to get back to Apple in just a second here, but let's go over the remote manifesto. So hiring and working from all over instead of a centralized location. This makes sense. If someone wants to work from you and they are in South Africa, then just hire them, right? It doesn't matter where you are, right? Whether you're in Chicago, Johannesburg, Perth, Tokyo, it doesn't matter where you are. You should be able to just work from an area location. So flexible working hours. And this is really good. Now, the other thing about, software development, it is somewhat creative. And you cannot grind through creativity. Well, you can, but it's really hard to do. And I do it, and I should probably make a whole video about that at some point in time. But, grinding through creativity takes years of work and mastery. So writing down and recording knowledge over verbal explanations. So everything's done written. The written process over on-the-job training. Public sharing of information over a need-to-know access. Opening up documents for editing by anyone over top-down control documents. So it's a little bit more of an open culture. Asynchronous communication, meaning it's like you message people here. And I actually do this a lot here. I message my developers and they get things done. And it actually works out way better than I thought it was. Now, keep in mind, though, I'm a person who thought that you had to have an office here. You had to have an office here. And believe it or not, the way that the e-learning industry has gone, you don't have to do that anymore. Now, have things gone a different way, I would have to have an office, and that's more for, let's say, a studio, right? Like if you're like a comedy troupe that has a huge YouTube channel, you're going to need a central location where people have to get together, right? And more on that when I talk about Apple here. Now, here's the big one. The results of work over the hours put in. So the idea is that you have like a certain amount of work that needs to be done. And if you get it done by Wednesday, then take the rest of the week off here. Now, for a big company like GitLab, you can absolutely do that. However, for smaller companies, that just doesn't work here, right? Like, if I had like 20 employees, I could probably do that, but I don't. So it's kind of difficult. Formal communication channels over informal communication channels. So so that's good. So this is a really good remote manifesto here. And as you can see, there's a lot of things here. I'm going to be deep diving into a lot of this stuff here because GitLab does it well. Now, unfortunately, GitLab stock price is down like 50%, like a lot of other tech stocks, but that's a different issue here, okay? So let's talk about Apple, okay? You have to look at a lot of companies as to like their size and like what they're doing here. So when it comes to like one of the most valuable companies and the most innovative companies, it's very difficult to do that work remotely. It's almost impossible. Netflix also doesn't like that as well, okay? And the reason why is that like in-person collaboration and communication is really good. Now, here's the problem. A lot of small business, and I will be the first to admit that I thought like this too, is you can't run your small business like Apple. You just can't do it, right? You have to run your business like the size of your business. Now, I would love to have a huge office and like a really trendy office and a bunch of collaboration, right? But that's not what it is. And a lot of companies, and I'm going to be fair, I have done this too, but a lot of companies fall into this. They try to be something that you're not. And if you want to start a small business, the best advice that I have for you is to build a small business and make small business products. Do not try and build something really big here, right? Small business, small outcomes, and those outcomes become bigger, okay? So Apple begins requiring in-person work here. So basically what they're doing is they're trying to this hybrid style here. And they just built this massive campus. I'd love to go to this campus at some point in time here. But at the end of the day, they have a lot of pushback from employees because they really like the flexible policies here. And so what they've done is, I guess they've kind of met them halfway. But I could see companies like Apple almost 100% going back to in-person work. I could definitely see it. And few, if any, people would be remote. Now, this is a huge problem because a lot of the employees have left, right? They might be 2 states over. And that's a big problem. They might have a much bigger house that they can have a family in and a Silicon Valley income. And now they're saying, well, you got to go back to San Francisco. And you got to go live back in that 2-person apartment that you could barely afford anyway, right? And so that's just kind of silly. So I think that, when tech workers could move anywhere, right? When tech workers can move anywhere and do anything, I think it's a really good thing because like it's really difficult to start a family in a place like San Francisco when you can't even afford like the basic amount of space for your family. And it's a big problem. So I would expect companies, right? Like Apple is going to be Apple, but I expect a lot of other companies that do require remote work that they will probably get a certain kind of person and some talent will leave, right? Now, the problem is, though, is that if all the big tech companies require this, then it's going to be a different sort of thing here. But remote work is here to stay. And the question is, will places like Apple just completely revert back to the way things were before the pandemic, right? The flip side of all of this here is that before the pandemic, I think people worked a bit too hard. So there is a sweet spot of hours, and I would say that's between 35 and maybe 42, 45 hours a week, right? And between those 2 hours, I think anything over 45 is a complete waste of time. And anything under really 35 hours can be, not as much here. Now, maybe if you were to add up all the hours and like you took some vacation time, that wouldn't be so bad here. But, a 4-day work week might not be a bad idea in some areas, but really the way that GitLab does this is fairly good here. And really, it's the results of the work, not the hours put in. And that's the big conflict that a lot of these companies just can't seem to reconcile. All right, so that concludes this video. I want to know your thoughts down below. Now, if you really want a remote job, then you can pledge for the complete Python for finance, trading, Web3, metaverse, and of course, machine learning here. This is a massive bundle of courses that teaches you everything about trading. It teaches you about finance. It teaches you about how to code machine learning algorithms that predict stock prices, etc. Now, whether you're in a bull market or a bear market where there's inflation or deflation, this bundle of courses is for you. It's a huge bundle of courses. And we have a bunch of Web3 courses and the metaverse here. So this is all of the content that you'll need to be successful here. You can pledge today. And the more you pledge, the more courses you get. The more courses that or the more that you pledge, the more courses that you can get. All of the rewards stack on top of each other. It's absolutely amazing here. So you can definitely take a look at a lot of these different options here. And please pledge today. It really does help out this channel when you pledge for this Kickstarter. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in another video.